Welcome. Welcome back. Wow. Wow.
What a season for us to decide to start covering college football. My goodness, these playoffs for any like shortness of entertainment that came in the regular season, these playoffs have been just they've made up for it and then some. And it wasn't like it was a boring regular season, but these
No,
playoffs,
no, it was a
I
great
mean,
we had storylines after like actual news, not outs in the game, you know what I mean? And it just kept on coming every week. And now we're at a point where the three teams in this playoff that were legacy teams are out. And we got all just straight new programs in this Final Four. So no matter what team wins in this, we're going to have a school going absolutely nuts, which is amazing.
yes. I mean, shout out to Indiana, shout out to Miami, shout out
Shout
to
out,
Ole
dude.
Miss slaying the Dragons. If
That's the dude.
Oregon had lost to Texas Tech, there would have been one school from each conference. I would have liked that, but
That would have been
I mean,
cool. Yeah.
that's
Oh
Oregon
yeah. Wait a
really
minute. Can we take a minute to clap it up for the ACC? We were competitive. We were competitive.
nine
Let's
and
go.
four, 9-4 in bowl games with opportunity, or 8-4 maybe, opportunity to finish
It
ten and
counts.
four, opportunity to be the best conference in the postseason. So
That's right.
wow.
Um, oh yeah, everybody looks in the back, you can see the new mascot for the Run the Seam show. Yep, she lost interest
Oh,
already. Okay, there you go.
goodbye, Miley.
Bye, Miley. Okay. All righty,
Sorry
folks.
to dox your dog like that, but
And I think it'll be fine. We'll post her in the Oregon fans Reddit page and she'll get really doxxed. Okay. Let's get into it, starting with the Fiesta Bowl down there in Arizona. Going to be a trip for both of these teams to get out there, leaving the swamps for both of these guys and going to the desert. We got a foreign climate for both of them. That's something that most people ain't talking about. Open dome system. So maybe that's a bit of an adjustment. Who knows? Hi, Miley. Kevin, why don't you give me your initial thoughts?
so one thing when Miami played Virginia Tech earlier this season, and they beat Virginia Tech, unfortunately. That was the first win outside of the state of Florida that Miami had. Ooh, who's a good doggy? Um, Not anymore is the case. They've won twice in Texas now. Now they're headed over to Arizona. I don't think traveling is an issue for this team.
Good
Um,
looks.
Ole Miss, obviously a crazy game against Georgia. Trinidad Chambliss is playing out of his mind. He's having one of those like Johnny Manziel type moments.
Yep.
And we'll see if it keeps going. But this is, I think, if you're going to see which team travels better, Ole Miss was kind of playing in their backyard a little bit in the Sugar Bowl. We'll see if the
That's
fans
true.
still travel. I got to think they are going to travel because I feel like they didn't think they'd be here, and here they are. And Arizona, great place this time of
Oh,
year.
dude. Amazing.
I guess when you're in Mississippi, it's pretty warm already, but you get that
That's right.
dry heat. It's that dry heat,
A
Tyler, that
dry heat,
Arizona
yes.
has.
Get
And
yourself nice in the shade. But nah, dude. I mean, look, I'm gonna come at this from just like a broad standpoint of storylines to start. You know, I got this quote here. Ole Miss has earned the right to play. That's all I can think of. You know what I mean? They've been through a lot this season, storyline wise, the coaching stuff and all that. And right now, like you said, Trinidad Chambliss playing out of his mind. Kwan Lacey showing us how maybe he should have been the running back up there. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, it was Jeremiah Love. But, he's having an explosive off season so far. I was just looking at his numbers when it came to how he was playing against, the Georgia game. And after his performance there, he rushed for 22 times and he had 98 yards, which isn't a lot, I know, but up against the Georgia defense, the guy did go off. So those are two players who are coming up pretty hot right there. On the other side of the ball, Malachi Tony. Dude, I mean, there's just like no competition for a second wide receiver or like first to second because he's got 400 more yards up to date than the next guy down on the list with CJ Daniels and what's his face and the other guy. Sorry, my phone's buzzing. Keelan Marion. I always forget the names. That's my bad, everybody. I'm a little slow in the head. If you've been watching all season, you know that. But look, one thing that I keep thinking about is how I keep asking myself this. Malachi Tony is the dimension for Miami winning as much as well as they have been. Not saying Carson Beck isn't playing extremely well too, but a big thing that he has on the year is like that 75% completion percentage. A lot of that has been helped by Malachi Tony's insane athleticism and being able to dive and get some great balls. So I don't think it's unfair to say that they have found something that works. Not saying that it's not something that incredibly works, but it's something that they do rely heavily on. Okay. So if I'm Ole Miss, you got to be thinking to yourself, all right, zone coverage, zone coverage, zone coverage, because we got to be able to like open up the door to doubling up on Malachi Tony to kind of shut him down all game. That's where they're going to have to play. But then you kind of got to think about those other guys like CJ Daniels and Keelan Morayan, if they can actually pick up the slack, and then they just don't have they don't have an answer for it, so to speak. Because I'm sorry, Ole Miss's pass defense is not stellar, Kev. That's one thing I want to tell you. They are ranked number 27 in opponent yards per pass and number 17 in opponent completion percentage. Good numbers during regular season. Right now, it's just not going to cut the cake, in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just to kind of go back on some of your stats there.
Okay, yeah, you're going to
Quan
correct me.
Lacey
Go ahead.
also added 2 touchdowns in the game against Georgia, and he had 2
Oh,
catches for 12 yards.
thank you, sir.
Also shout out to Mark Fletcher Jr. He continues to be a workhorse.
Yep, yep.
One, I'm going to get into 2 critiques on both teams I have from their performances, which is really a sleazy thing for me to do as a Hokie fan who's just been watching from his couch. But Malachi Tony fumbled again against Ohio State.
He did.
He's had a bit of loose hands lately. Ole Miss, their turnover margin only 0.1 positive, but they're not setting the world on fire with turnovers. I think that's something they're going to need to do this game. I'm going to come back to that. Let me get to Ole Miss now. I
Go
think
ahead.
with how incredible Trinidad Chambliss has been, I think his receivers need to step up getting open quicker. And then if they can't get open, if they can't get open on their initial routes, I'm looking for Caden Lee, for Daquan Wright, and for Deuce Alexander to once the play breaks down, Trinidad's scrambling, do a better job of getting open, I think. And that's again, we're talking all-time sleazy critiques here by a team that just, if you go back to our video last week, Tyler and I could not have been more wrong on the Ole Miss Georgia game. We thought Georgia won a low-scoring game easily. Wow, that was dumb.
Dude,
Now,
look, I'm throwing out the playbook a little bit, Kev. I know you're doing all the play-by-play research here, but yeah, I've been doing it all season, and I want to also critique our records from the last slide. I thought we got away from including the parlays, and we actually did a lot better than what you showed, but that's fine. But that being said, like during the regular season when we had all these analytics and stuff, it was working a little bit better. Now I don't know what the hell to think. I really don't. Any given game is literally any given Sunday, and I'm leaning more on vibes in my pick, and you'll see that when I announce. Do you have anything else to add before we get to those? By the way,
yeah, just a
okay.
few, and this will kind of lead into to my pick. This just if I had to summarize this game, it's Miami's game to lose, and it's Trinidad Chambliss's game to win. I'm looking back at Miami's 2 losses on the season, SMU and Louisville. Miami really beat themselves. They had a combined 6 interceptions and 21 penalties for 163 yards in those games. Against Ohio State last week, do you know how many penalties Miami had?
I don't, but if I remember correctly, I think it was like I'm guessing 7.
0.
Okay,
0. So and again, like you said,
amateur.
throwing out the playbook. I know I had to double check that one, but throwing out the playbook because part of me does think Miami could be due up for a more sloppy game. And it will be up to this Ole Miss defense to do something they haven't done a great job of, which is forcing turnovers and taking care of the ball themselves. Chambliss, no interceptions in the college football playoffs so far.
No, not yet. Oh,
So now I'm just going to have 2 more notes here. Miami, with how impressive their win was last week, their offense only scored 17 points. In all of their games this year, all 14 games, only once has the total score been over 52.5 points. That was against USF early on in the season when they went off for, I think it was 49
I
points.
remember that. Yeah.
So when I
They were
say
hanging their
that though,
banner on that one. Yeah.
Ole Miss has been in both low scoring dogfights. Think back to that LSU game. Think back to the Washington State game. Maybe even credit the 30-14 win over South Carolina as one of
And
those.
credit that first Georgia loss, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've been in low scoring dogfights and they've been in shootouts.
Yep.
Miami's really only been in low scoring dogfights. In fact, if you score 24 points against Miami, you have a 50% shot at beating them. Notre Dame couldn't get it done, but Louisville certainly did, 24-21. Yeah, that's you can reveal my pick. I think I've
All
been
right.
leading into I forgot I switched it to the under at the last minute because of the
Love
fact
it.
that
All
yeah,
right.
that
Wait, but are you sticking with the under or what are we doing?
I'm sticking with the under, yeah.
Fabulous. All right. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Kev, this whole off season, Notre Dame has pissed me off. And Miami going as far as they have to, well, not shut them up because they're the most annoying people on the face of the earth. And I think that every Notre Dame X account is run by a bot in India at this point. But no, genuinely, I am so happy to see how they're kind of getting put in their place by Miami going this far. But now Miami's knocking on the doorstep of the championship and hoisting the trophy. And I remember another fact. I also despise Miami fans. So,
But
kind
shout out
of
to all the
going.
Miami fans watching. Shout out to them.
I
We love
look.
you guys.
If
It's
I
the
make
other
enemies, I make enemies. Prove me wrong, like other fan bases have. I don't know what to tell you. That being said, because everything else has been a coin flip thus far this offseason, I got me a big old vibe pick here. Ole Miss plus 3.5. Confidence. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And I just have a few other things to note. Ole Miss had no sacks against Georgia. That's something that, again, they're going to have, if they want to make this a sloppy game for Miami, they're going to have to get in Carson Beck's face. They're going to have to make this hard. They're going to have to get Miami behind the sticks. Look on Miami's defensive side, Akeem Mesidor, he's got 3.5 sacks in the playoffs so far. Miami as a whole has gotten 12 sacks in the playoffs. They're if there's a team that's not going to let Trinidad Chambliss, make a little spin move, run, do that crazy thing he did against Georgia where he ran
Yeah.
that was some NCAA like on junior
Oh
varsity
yeah,
level.
where it
You
was
go,
like
"Wee," and
where
then all the way
he
back. And
he doubled on the circle button. It almost looked like
yeah,
he glitched on that play. It was amazing.
but if there's a team where you're not going to get away with that, it is Miami.
Yep.
Now, honestly, if I'm justifying my pick, once I saw the line move to 3.5, I was like, maybe Miami wins this one by 3. And
Did
I
it
still think
open
that
at 2.5?
ACC
Sorry to
it
cut you off.
started at 3. It would start at 3, and then the
Mm,
over under was 51.5. That was a
Gotcha,
few days
gotcha.
ago. But yeah, I mean, if Miami wins this thing by 3, both of us are right with our picks, and the ACC continues to march on. So that's but either way, I feel like, oh man,
Oh,
if I was gonna say whichever team wins this, I think I'll be rooting for in the championship game, but it's hard to root against that Indiana team, Sig and
yeah, yeah, man.
Mendoza. So
Um,
it's
Kev, I also want to preface this by saying that with these picks, I put mine in before I removed your thing to check who you picked. So just want to let you know.
okay.
But yeah, folks, thanks for tuning in. If you're just watching for the coverage of this game, me and Kev, I believe we're going to iron it out for Sundays coming up after next week, where we have like a little bit of a fun end of college season episode planned. But Sundays after that, we're going to be going into college ball coverage. Right now, I got a Louisville and Duke game on in the background, which is turning out to be an all-timer. I'm sad I'm not sitting in front of it, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. And yeah, guys, remember to like and subscribe. Appreciate everybody who joins in and watches us spew nonsense every week.
Tell us what you think in the comments. Give
That's
us a
right.
score prediction. Well, we take note on that. If a fan gives us the right prediction, we'll be sure to shout
We,
them out in the next episode
we
because,
might actually give you a job if you're better at this than us.
and that's not hard to do.
It's really not. All right. Thank you, folks. Peace.